Hello, welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. Judith Campbell said, when your heart speaks, take good notes. Tonight, we're going to talk about what it means to be a heart-centered leader. What is it like when you can completely tune in to your heart, to your intuition, to your higher self, to your higher power, and connect your heart and your mind instead of going just by logic. And I'm going to teach you several techniques on how to get there, because I don't know about you, but I grew up in a place where I had to be smart. I had to be on guard. And I felt like the only way I was really safe is if I was a step ahead of everybody. And that required a lot of using logic and a lot of predicting people's behavior. And if you grew up in a chaotic environment at all, you understand what I'm talking about. And I also learned to not trust my gut so much, because we're taught in this society by many of our parents to do what they say, not what we feel is right. So give Uncle Sam a hug. And like, no, he's creepy. I don't want to. Like, do it anyway. Say you're sorry, but I'm not sorry. Things like that. So we are trained to not listen to our intuition. So I believe much of our adulthood is unlearning everything that we have piled on, all the have tos, all the musts, all the shoulds, and we get to start finding out what is true for us. What do we really feel? What do we really desire? What are we drawn to? And we're also taught, many of us, especially if you have any type of religious upbringing, that desire is evil, that it, will lead you down a dark path. And I'm not saying that it can't, but if you go underneath any type of desire that's real, and you think about, like, what will that give me? So say you desire money, for example. What do you think that will give you? What feeling are you after? Maybe freedom, maybe joy, maybe expansion, maybe charity, maybe generosity. So we get to look at, what's underneath things when you're looking at desire, and know that desire, if it's true desire, is put there by God or your higher self, and it leads you on a path. So when you are deciding what to say yes to, for example, check in with your body. Is it like a hell yes for you? Or do you go backward? If it's a hell yes, and you sit with your body and just let it go neutral, you will literally fall forward, which means go for it, go for it. Whereas if it's a no for you, or even a maybe is a no, you might go backward, your body might contract, but you get to start noticing that, like, okay, what do I really want? And you get to ask yourself that, because you matter. What you desire matters. And I digress. So let's talk about the heart. There are so many things, like studies that have been done. One time I interviewed this cardiac surgeon, cardiac surgeon. And she said every single person she had ever operated on had an emotional broken heart. They were brokenhearted. So she started teaching meditation to her patients and got them to heal their emotional wounds, because when we are brokenhearted emotionally, it will affect our cardiac health. And many of us grow up in survival mode, and we are looking at other people. Anytime we interact with others, we're looking at, okay, what can they do to me? So we're protecting ourselves so that we don't get hurt. Or what can they do for me, because I'm not enough, I'm lacking, so I can't do it for myself. What can this person do for me to make me feel better about myself, or to get me further along something? It's a getting energy, where you want something and you have an expectation, and it's not clean energy, and it's not your fault. Like, we were raised that way, to think that we were not enough. Every single person I know has their own unique flavor of I am not enough. It can look like I don't matter, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough, I don't matter. All of those things are different forms of I'm not enough. And when we have those, of course, we're looking outside of ourselves for everything. for validation, that we're okay. Am I okay if I say this? Am I okay if I wear this? Am I okay if I do this? Whatever it is. And will you still love me if you really knew the truth about me? That's like the underlying thing why people wear a lot of masks, is because they feel like they'll be rejected if people know the real them. So let's talk about the heart. Anytime we are protecting ourselves, we are literally putting armor over our hearts. And I came up with this analogy with a client one time, but it's like people tell you that good girls don't speak up. And you have a window over your heart, right in front of your heart, and you put like this layer of soot over it, and you're dimming your light. And you're like, okay, well, I have to be quiet. So you put this layer on there. And then you get something else like good daughters clean their rooms. You put another layer because you don't want to clean your room, right? And then we wonder why we get so small. We shrink. We have a midlife crisis like, who the heck am I? Because we keep changing and morphing to please other people. And we're not letting our light shine. So when you do personal growth work, it's like cleaning that window right in front of your heart. You just clean a little bit off, and like a little bit of light shines out, and you're like, okay, let's see if it's safe. And I was listening to a Dr. Joe Dispenza thing the other day, and he was saying that it is inherent in our DNA that we have this belief that all really good, enlightened, passionate leaders get it in the end. He's like, look at Jesus, Abraham Lincoln, John Lennon, a lot of people got killed for being too much. Martin Luther King, right? They were passionate about their cause. And he talked about this phenomenon called emergence. Emergence. And it is the phenomenon when you see a school of fish and they all move together, or a flock of birds and they all move together. And it looks like there's a leader, but it is a bottom-up phenomenon. Everybody is leading. Everybody is leading. They're one mind. They share a consciousness. And we do too. We're just not always tapped into it. But what if everybody led? And what if they were waiting for you to give them permission to lead in their own lives? So you get to be courageous and you get to tap into your heart and say, okay, what do I want? What's on my heart to share right now? And start talking to people, sharing it with them. Even if it sounds really weird. Like, I'm going to give you an example. One time I used to be an usher at my church, and, I was very much into doing what was expected of me, being the good girl, doing the right thing. But I heard this voice, this woman that I hadn't seen before there. And it was a pretty small church, so I knew most of the people. She came in, and at some point she left, and she looked really upset. And there's the part of me, back then I was a huge part that was a people pleaser, but I heard this voice. It's like, go after her. And I'm like, what? Okay. So I literally ran out the church door after her, and I talked to this woman and I held her. And like, of myself back then, I never would have done that. I never would have done something that I could have been rejected by her. She might have thought I was crazy. The other people might have thought, oh, you're leaving your station. You're not doing a good job as an usher. You're not going to be invited back, whatever. But that voice was so strong. And that woman was so grateful. She was so grateful. Something that the pastor said triggered her. And she just felt so seen and so protected and so loved. And that's an example of how we are all connected. Like, she put out the bat signal and it was beamed down to probably lots of people, but I'm the one who picked it up and acted on it. And that's what I think happens. Like, when you send out a bat signal, I like to call it that, your cosmic request to the universe, God, spirit, many, many people will hear it, but not everybody trusts themselves, or not everyone's tuned into that frequency. So they're not going to answer, but somebody will. You ever have that happen when you really need to talk to a friend and somebody calls you out of the blue? They got the bat signal. They got the signal. So it's things like that. When you have those urges, listen, if you have an urge to drive a different way to the store that you always go to, or to leave 5 minutes later, listen to it, because you could be getting in an accident or avoiding getting into an accident if you listen. So I always think about things like that when I have this gut feeling. And you'll know, like, start to pay attention where you feel things in your body, where you feel truth for you, because truth is deeply rooted. There are things that I read, for example, that just feel like truth, like all up and down, like in my gut, my heart, like everything feels expansive. And I'm like, yes, like I have no doubt that this is truth. And there are other things I'm like, "No, that's not for me." It's okay if other people want to read this and believe it. Even if it comes highly recommended, I'll be open to things. And if it doesn't feel good in my body, I'll stop reading it. I donate it. I get rid of it. I'm like, I don't need that around me. It's not my vibe. And I just trust that. So when you talk about leading from the heart, there are several questions I like to ask myself or ask God, universe, spirit. And I was talking about this today. I did a master class, and I was talking about when I coach people or when I do speaking, one of the things that I say that really gets me out of my head, and it really helps with nerves too. Like, I do a lot of speaking and I rarely get nervous, sometimes, but not very much. But what I say is, get me out of the way and speak through me. And by get me out of the way, I'm talking about the ego mind, the part that is identified with the flesh, right? The body, or identified with being right, or comparing, or judging, things like that. The part that has an opinion. So when the ego mind is out of the way, I am open. I'm an open channel for whatever wants to come through me. And I believe that to be truth. And when I first started coaching, the messages I would hear sounded really harsh to my human ears, because I thought I knew better than God. I thought, oh, a good coach wouldn't say that to somebody. That sounds mean. Whatever. I was judging it. And so I would water it down so that people wouldn't fire me, because I thought I was lacking back then. And people would get watered down results, because I was messing with God. I'm like, oh no, God, I know better than you. I got this, right? So after a while, I'm like, well, this isn't working. Like, I suck as a coach. Nobody's getting any results. So I heard the harsh thing one time, and I don't remember what it was. That's the other thing. I often don't remember what comes through me, but I remember people's faces and responses. So I said something, and this woman, it was like watching her in slow motion get punched in the gut. She went, but then this crack in her facade happened, and she was able to take off the masks, because finally, even though she was doing her best to convince herself that she was someone else in a different way, and to convince other people, somebody saw her. It wasn't me, it was God, but somebody saw her, which allowed her to take the masks off and to allow more of herself to be seen, her authentic self, the part that she was so afraid of acknowledging and of anybody finding out. And then we get to work, right? When we are able to take those masks off and cut through the bullshit, we can get to work on the real stuff that will create lasting transformation. So if I hadn't trusted myself, that never would have happened. If I hadn't trusted my connection to the divine, that wouldn't have happened either. And it didn't come by, okay, yes, I trust. No, I was scared. I was scared shitless that I was going to be rejected, that she was going to be mad at me, that she was going to fire me. I was really scared. But it took that faith, like, okay, what I'm doing isn't working. Perhaps you know more or better than I do, God. Just maybe. Right? I mean, it sounds ridiculous. But when you're not in tune, as I wasn't ready to receive guidance quite yet, or to trust it, because I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. So it takes practice. You get to play with it and say, okay, what's on my heart to say? And one thing that really supports me, it comes from A Course in Miracles, is I don't know what my brother or sister needs, but I know you do. I don't know what my brother or sister needs, but I know you do. Because we often, if we're in our ego minds, we think we know what's best for other people. We think we know what's best for ourselves. We often don't. We get to defer. So just doing that, it's another way of saying, get me out of the way, take the wheel, right? Take the wheel, you got this. It really helps. Now, getting into your heart, what I like to do, several things. One of the things that I've been doing is this meditation from Dr. Joe Dispenza called Center of the Magnet. And if you look at the body, if you've ever studied the chakras, he calls them energy centers of the body. There are 7 main ones. Sometimes people say 8 above the head. But the middle one is the heart, number 4. You can't see because my camera's not down there. So what he does in Center of the Magnet is he does this breath that I love. So he connects to the earth, and then you breathe up from the earth to 1, which is the perineum area, and you're squeezing it. And then you keep squeezing it, and in one continuous breath, you go up to 2, which is right under or behind the navel, just a little bit below the navel. So you're squeezing 1 and breathing in, squeezing 2, and then you're squeezing 3, which is above your navel. It's your real stomach, where your stomach is. If someone punches you in the gut and you go, it's that one. And then you're bringing all that energy that it takes for elimination, procreation, and digestion, and bringing it up into the heart. And then you're squeezing that, and your shoulders are down, and you're squeezing, and your focus is on your heart. So you're bringing the energy up from the earth, squeezing 1, squeezing 2, squeezing 3, and bringing all that energy up into the heart, which is your creative center, really. And then you're holding your breath, your eyes are closed, and your focus is on your heart. So let's try that together. So go ahead and close your eyes and exhale out all your air, and exhale 3 times. So you're going to go. So as you're exhaling, you're squeezing your gut, like pulling it in as much as possible. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to exhale. And then reach into the earth. Reach down into the earth with no breath. And then pull that energy up as you inhale, up into 1. Squeeze it as hard as you can. And keep pulling the energy of 1 up to 2 as you breathe in and squeeze it. And then up to 3, keep breathing in and squeezing it. 1 continuous breath. And then up into 4 to the heart, and focus all of your attention on your heart and squeeze everything. Squeeze all of those energy centers. Squeeze it up, and then release. Let's do it again. Take a couple breaths. I wasn't doing the breath, so you might be out of breath. All right, so let's breathe out all our air 3 times. Reach down to the earth and inhale. Bring it up to 1, squeeze it. Bring it up to 2 and keep squeezing both of them. Bring it up to 3, squeeze all 3, bringing the energy up to 4, which is your heart. Finishing the breath on the heart and the focus on the heart, squeezing, pumping all those centers up into the heart. Hold, and release it. Now, something that I found that really adds a little extra kick to this breath is when you breathe out, keep contracting those muscles, and then breathe out all the air. And once your air is gone, then relax the muscles. Usually I'll get like something electric shooting. So generally we do that one up 3 or 4, 6 times. And then it's called Center of the Magnet. Then you are reaching up into the heavens, into the ethers, and you're pulling down with your attention. You're pulling down all the energy from the heavens, from everywhere, other realms, into the crown of your head, into 7. And then into 6, like here, sorry, I didn't mean to flip you off, and behind, so like the center of your head, and then to 5, which is your throat, and then to 4. And then once you do that, you're pulling down. So your eyes, my eyes are usually up, but I'm focused also on the heart. So it's the mind and the heart. And then squeeze 1, 2, and 3. So you're squeezing from both ends. everything's focused in the heart. So let's try that together. So let's breathe out and breathe out again, like squeeze all the air out. And then reach up into the heavens, pull down from above your head all the beautiful heavenly energy into the top of your head. Keep pulling it down. That was 7, into 6, between the eyes, in the middle of the brain, down into 5, the throat, down into the heart, and squeeze. And then squeeze 1, 2, 3, up into the heart. And focus on the heart. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Squeeze all your muscles. Keep squeezing them and exhale. And once all the air is out, then release the muscles. Now try that several times and see. For me, it gets me out of my head so fast and expands the heart, literally, physically, and emotionally. It will expand the heart, and it releases oxytocin, which is that feel good bonding kind of chemical. Now, once you get pretty good at this breath, then you can go into any kind of meditation, a silent meditation, guided meditation, and really focus love. And one of the things I really like to do is to think about a person or a pet that's really, really easy to love. And then send all your love to them, like surround them with your loving energy. And feel your hearts connected, because energy knows no bounds. We are all connected energetically. So feel the energy of their heart and feel the energy of your heart, and then feel them kind of combining into one big giant heart. And it could be inside your chest, it could be inside of the other person or animal, it could be both, doesn't matter. Now, when you get good at that, then you can move to like some neutral people, friends, acquaintances that are, easy to love. You can move to other people that you love, and you just want to keep expanding it out. And then you go to people that, they're acquaintances, but you don't know them well. And then eventually when you get good at it, you go to people that you really don't like, the people that trigger you, and you just surround them with love. And know this, people that trigger you are your greatest teachers, because you wouldn't be triggered by them unless you were ready to heal whatever it is to bring me up in you. So I see that as like, not in the moment. In the moment, I'm like, but afterward, I'm like, oh, okay, what are they here to teach me? Sometimes I catch it right away, but sometimes I don't, and that's all right. So whatever your judgments are about that person is some part of you that you don't think is lovable. So how can you love that part? What are the gifts of that way of being? So play with it, play with all of it. And then when you get good at focusing your energy, when you're doing that breath, you can start focusing on your mind and your heart, and then really do your best to send the same amount of energy and the same amount of attention on both. And that is a great way to connect your heart and your mind. So you're open to ideas and opportunities from the universe, from God's spirit, and you're leading with your heart, which is really the only way now. I mean, that's the new paradigm. We get to lead from the heart. People are wise to us. Like, you can tell when people aren't authentic now, can't you? So can they. So if you're not being authentic and you think you're fooling someone, you're not. I used to think I was fooling everyone with my masks. And it was so liberating the day I found out that I wasn't, because I'm like, oh, it's been exhausting wearing these masks and they're not even working. I'm just going to lay this down and just be. It was so liberating. I felt so free. So practice tuning into your heart. Ask yourself the questions like, what do I want? What am I feeling right now? Ask yourself those questions. I love it. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You. I'm your host, Karen Seltz. I have a free gift for you that I will link up in the comments. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like this video, and I will see you right here next week.